Yo, welcome back to another video. How do you like my DIY tire sled? Considering it cost me $0 to make, I'm super chuffed with it. Stick around to the end of the video if you'd like to know how I made it. For now, let's jump straight into these top 5 sled exercises. Starting off at the top of the list, number 1 movement right now has to be the backwards walk. Inspired by Ben Patrick, aka the Kneesovertoesguy. Absolutely loving his work, by the way. He's the reason I decided to make a sled in the first place. To quote him, the better you are going backwards, the more protected you are going forwards. Walking backwards is the lowest form of knees over toes training, and for those with knee issues, he suggests starting off with 15 minutes 3 times a week with just your own body weight. In order to speed up the process, you can of course add resistance, and this exercise with the tire sled is just one of the ways you can add weight effectively to walking backwards. To really target the VMO, you can externally rotate your feet outwards slightly, drop your hips, and focus on pushing the floor away till your legs are straight. FYI, your Vastus Medialis Oblique is that teardrop looking muscle which sits just on the inside of your thigh, and primary function is to extend the knee. Not many people know this, but its secondary function is to attract the opposite sex, as it's rated one of the sexiest muscles in the body, so make sure to work on your VMOs, people. Also, don't quote me on that, I make joke. Coming in hot at number 2, I've chosen the lateral drag performed karaoke style, simply meaning the back foot alternates between stepping in front and then stepping behind the lead foot. Sideways movements and working laterally in general can often be neglected in a way, and so this is a nice one to change up the pattern. Do your best to keep your toes facing more or less perpendicular to the direction you are moving in. A common mistake to not doing this properly is facing your toes to the front and basically walking forward while having your arm at a weird angle twisted behind you to drag the sled. Also notice the rotation in the hips as you transition from back foot in front to back foot behind the lead foot. This is an all-round great exercise, working the adductors, the glutes, the obliques, and even has a nice feeling of traction in the arm and shoulder. Number 3, we have the Sumo stance pull. You can thank Phil Daru for this one, an absolute legend in the game. Here we want to maintain a neutral spine as we lean forward slightly and have that wide stance. This movement, as you can imagine, is quite sport specific to MMA, mimicking that low, wide wrestling stance. I would say this is a movement to really load up and go as heavy as you can without compromising form. Again, so many muscles are being worked just doing this one exercise, from the upper back to the lower back, the glutes, the hamstrings, and even calves. Numero 4, rotational pullback. I've noticed rotational exercises are often performed upright or perhaps leaning forward, but rarely leaning back. A TRX rotational pull comes to mind, but other than that, it's not too common. An example of movement in sport that would have such a pattern is a takedown in judo while leaning back. Contrary to number 3, it's best to keep the sled at a lighter weight for this one to keep the integrity of your technique. Facing straight to the sled, shoulders slightly retracted, keeping arms out in front, generate the power from your trunk and pivot the foot opposite to the side you rotate towards. Then alternate by stepping back, creating tension in the straps, and rotate to the other side. Take your time with this one in between rotations, as you want to make each rotation as powerful as you can. Our 5th and final sled movement, or movements should I say, is a cheeky little combo of 2 exercises, a rope pull into a low sled push. A prowler sled would usually have some sort of low bar handles, and so this is quite unorthodox, pushing the tire itself. I might have to patent this move and call it the rope pull into Tim Low sled push. Get it? With the first part of this movement, you want to imagine pulling the rope as if someone is drowning at the end of the sled and you've got to pull them up onto board as fast as possible. Fight the burn and save dear old Janice! Once you've rescued dear old Janice out of the water, you want to imagine the sled is now called Karen and you're trying to push her away as hard and as fast as possible. Depending on your goal and what you are trying to achieve, you can obviously alter the weight and speed of all these movements, but I would suggest doing each movement for between 5 to 10 minutes, at least 1 to 2 times a week. Start by doing what you can and gradually build your resilience up, increasing the duration of time as you progress. If you did all 5 of these movements alone, that would give you a pretty comprehensive full body workout. So here's the deal. Everyone wants to be pain-free, to be strong and powerful, have bulletproof knees, a bulletproof spine, bulletproof shoulders, and so forth. But not everyone is willing to put in the time and effort it takes to achieve this. Sitting on the couch watching Netflix is a much more appealing option after a long day of work. I get it. That being said, every day I work with people who are not so fortunate in terms of what they can do physically and would do anything to be able to move like how the average person moves. This is a constant reminder to fully appreciate my physical abilities, because if I don't, that's just a slap in the face of those who can't. To conclude, I encourage all of you watching this to move now while you still can, so you can move later on in life too.
Alright, so check it. Let me tell you what happened, yeah? Man hits up the garage innit and be like, yo, bruv, can I cop a couple tires? And they're like, Ish, Mafia Arabi? And I'm like, la. So get the phone out, get the Google Translate thing going English Arabic. Once after a bit of confusion, they realized I just wanted a couple of old tires, innit? So they're like, it's cool, bruv, calm. Take it for free. I'm like, safe, bruv. So anyway, I got my tires here. But now you see, I gotta link them in it. And you know in them movies where a man like stabs a tire with a little bufflight knife and the whole thing goes like punctured, like completely flat, yeah? Lies, bruv. Hollywood got me stabbing this tire with a kitchen knife for minutes, bruv. First of all, yeah, the rubber like bare thick in it. And then secondly, there's like a sheet of metal around it in it. So bruv, I'm like, this ain't happening, do you know what I mean? So I'm like, what do? So I go to the compound workshop in it, and I had a couple of Pinoy brothers in there, yeah? And they're like, oh, boy, where you from? And I'm like, Malaysia. And they're like, oh, Malaysia, Philippines, neighbors. And I'm like, yeah, cool, bruv. Can you put a hole in my tire though? So they get the drill out in it. Pop 3 drills, bruv. 1 there, boom. And then 2 another drill holes here, pop a carabiner through, put the rope through the hole, yeah? Tie knot round, bruv, ain't coming out, it's linked. Do you know what I mean? Happy days. Then I realized it's still not heavy enough, so what I did, yeah? Man thought a genius idea. What you do, put the dumbbell, boom, right there in that gap. Guess what, fam? It works. It works.